Botchan, Nasume Soseki. Retold by Alistair Lamond. Copyright Ailey Readers, 2013. Chapter 1. Botchan leaves Tokyo for Shikoku. I was a very strange child. I did too many bad things. Perhaps it was something in my family history. Once, I jumped from the second floor of my school. I do not know why I did it. I hurt my leg. I was in bed for a week. My father was angry with me. Someone gave me a small knife. I showed some friends. "Your knife is not dangerous," said one boy. "Not dangerous?" I cut my hand. I remember the pain. Another day, some friends and I went to some rice fields near our house. I put some rocks in the field to stop the water. Rice must have water. There was no water, so the rice died. The farmer was very angry. He came to our house. He told my mother and father about the rocks. They gave him some money. I was a bad son. My father did not like me very much. My father and mother always preferred my big brother. Mother often talked about my life after school. I did not like school. "You must study. You must work hard. A man must have a good job. A man needs money," she said. I was very young when she died. My brother studied English hard. He wanted to work in a company. He did not like me, and I did not like him. We fought every day. Once, I cut his head. He told our father. Father was angry with me. Father was always angry with me. Father decided not to give me money after he died. I did not like that. Kiyo, our old servant, wanted to help me. She cried. She said sorry to my father for me. She asked him to give me some money. She helped me. Kiyo's father was rich, but he lost all his money when the Meiji era started. Kiyo was our servant for many years. Old Kiyo loved me very much. I did not know why. Perhaps she loved me too much. My mother and father did not love me. I was nothing to them. Our neighbors did not like me, as I was a bully. My Kiyo was different. Sometimes, when my parents and brother were not in the house, we talked. "You are a good boy, Botchan," said Kiyo. That was a surprise. Nobody said good things about me. After my mother died, Kiyo's love for me was important to me. Sometimes she bought me nice things. When the night was cold, she made hot noodles for me in secret. She gave me some things to use at school. Our servant. She gave me things when my father and brother were not in the house. I did not like that. "Why do you give those things to me and not to my brother too?" I once asked Kiyo. Her answer was a surprise. "Your father gives him everything." Father died 6 years after Mother. In April that year, I left school. 2 months later, My brother finished business school. He was lucky. He was quick to find a job, but it was in Kyushu, far from Tokyo. He decided to move there. I decided to live in Tokyo to finish school. We had many old things in our house. There were my mother's and father's things, and their family's old things. Perhaps my brother got a lot of money for all those things, but I do not know. He never said anything to me. Kiyo was very sad when my brother decided to move to Kyushu. She liked our house. She wanted to be my servant. However, that was too expensive for me. I did not know what to say. Kiyo moved out of our house to live with her brother. We were both sad. It was time for my brother to go to Kyushu. He visited me in my new place. He gave me 600 yen. I went to Shimbashi Station to say goodbye. I never saw him again after that. I decided to go to university for 3 years. I was a bad student. What did I want to study? And which university? One day, I saw a new school in Tokyo. They wanted more students. I decided to go there. For 3 years, I studied hard. I was never a very good student, but I finished. The head teacher of my school spoke to me. A high school in Shikoku wanted a teacher of mathematics. It was only 40 yen a month. The head teacher asked me to go to Shikoku. I thought about it. I did not want to be a teacher. I did not want to move to an island far from Tokyo, but I did not have any work in Tokyo. I decided to move to Shikoku. Poor Kiyo. I could not take her to Shikoku with me. My new school was on an island very far from Tokyo. Shikoku is a big island, but it looked very small on the map. I knew nothing about it. Perhaps that was because it was very far from Tokyo. I went to see Kiyo in her brother's house to say goodbye to her. She was in bed because she was not well. She got up when she knew it was me. Kiyo, there is a job in Shikoku for a mathematics teacher, I said. It is far from Tokyo, and it does not pay much. However, I took it. I leave tomorrow. Kiyo was very sad. She wanted to be my servant in my new house. She came with me to Shimbashi Station. We went there in rickshaws. I looked at Kiyo from the train. She looked at me. "Goodbye," she said. Her eyes were sad, but she did not cry. I wanted to cry, because I was sad too. After the train left the station, I put my head out of the window. Kiyo was there. She watched my train for a long time. Chapter 2. Botchan meets badger, red shirt, clown, porcupine, and squash. I took the train to Kobe, then the boat from Kobe to Shikoku. Our boat was very big. It stopped in the sea. A man came in a small boat to the big boat. We all got in. I was first. The man did not have his shirt. It was hot. The sun was very strong. The water was like a mirror. I found the train station and bought my ticket. It was very cheap. The train was very small. I got off after 5 minutes. That is why the ticket was cheap, I thought. I did not want to walk from the station to the high school. I took a rickshaw. The rickshaw driver found the school quickly. No one was there. The classrooms were empty. The students were not in school. The caretaker was there, but no teachers. Every night, a different teacher slept in the school with the boarding students. I asked the caretaker about the teacher. The teacher for today was out of school. The caretaker did not know where. That was a surprise. I wanted to see the principal, but I was tired. I decided to meet him later. The rickshaw driver took me to a hotel called Yamashiro-ya. A hotel maid took me to a small room with no windows. It was very hot in the room. The girl said all the other hotel rooms were full. She put my bags on the floor and left. I took a bath in the evening. When I returned to my room, I saw many empty rooms. All of them were better and bigger than my room. I was not happy. Perhaps the hotel gave me a small room because I did not tip anyone. My room was hot. It was difficult to sleep. When I went to sleep, I dreamt of Kyo. In my dream, she ate rice dumplings in bamboo leaves. I laughed. I woke up happy. In the morning, the same hotel maid came to my room with my breakfast. I tipped her with a 5-yen note. She was surprised. 5 yen was a lot of money for a tip. After breakfast, I left for school. My hotel was near the school, so I walked. On the walk to school, I saw a lot of students in their heavy school uniforms. Some of them were taller than me, and looked stronger too. I arrived at the school. Someone took me to the principal's room. The principal had a big moustache and big eyes. He looked like a badger. He was a very important man. He knew it. "This is your certificate of appointment," said Badger. "You can now teach here. Please show it to the teachers when you meet them. Work hard and do your best. That is all you can do." The principal wanted me to show it to all the teachers. That was too much work. I wanted to put the certificate on the wall in the teacher's room for a day or two. They could read it any time. The principal looked at his watch. "I have time to tell you about the school and your work here. The other teachers are teaching now," he said. The principal spoke to me about teaching. "A teacher's work is very important," he said. I listened to him, but I wanted to run away. It was a big mistake to come to this school. I could not do it. He did not understand me or my character. I was not a teacher, I thought. Badger talked about the students. "Students love good teachers, and they follow good teachers. They learn from good teachers." That was not easy for me. This was my first job. Was I a good teacher? I did not know. It was not possible to find a good teacher in Tokyo for only 40 yen a month. Shikoku was very far from Tokyo. The school needed to offer more money to get a great man and great teacher. This was a mistake. I wanted to leave this school. I cannot do this job. I cannot accept this job, I told the principal. Badger looked at me with his badger's eyes. He said, "Do what you can. I know that you cannot do all I want. Please do your best." Then he started laughing. What a strange man. The school played the bugle at the end of the first class of the day. The school was full of noisy students. I followed the principal to the teacher's room. When I entered the room, the teachers all looked at me. Was I the new school clown? I said hello. I showed my certificate to each teacher. Some teachers stood up to say hello to me. Some teachers took the certificate, read it, and gave it back to me. I did not understand why they wanted to read my boring certificate. The head teacher was a very important man because he had a certificate from Imperial University. He wore a red shirt. He had a high voice, like a girl. Someone told me that his red shirts were special. After that, I called him Red Shirt. Mr. Koga, a teacher of English, had a very white face. People with white faces are often thin. This man was big. My old servant Kiyo told me a long time ago that people with white faces ate a lot of squash. I think Mr. Koga ate too much squash. I decided that was his new name, Squash. Mr. Hotta was a mathematics teacher. He was also a big man. His hair was strange. He was like a porcupine. I showed him my certificate, but he did not look at it. "Are you the new teacher? Come to see me soon," said Porcupine. Then he laughed. He was a strange man, too. One teacher was a very serious man, but he liked to talk. He talked a lot. He asked many questions. "Did you arrive yesterday? Aren't you tired? Are you teaching today? You are working hard," he said. But he did not wait for me to answer. The art teacher wore a thin Western coat over his kimono. I did not like that. Western is Western, and Japanese is Japanese. He asked me, "Where are you from? Tokyo? I am also from Tokyo." He was from Tokyo, my beautiful city. I knew immediately that I did not like this man. What a clown, I thought. That was my new name for him. Clown. After I said hello to all the teachers, I met Badger again. "Please talk to Mr. Hotta at the end of the day," Badger said. "He is your boss." Mr. Hotta? He meant Porcupine. Porcupine was my boss? What a surprise! I was not happy. I walked back to the hotel. When I arrived at the hotel, they were very happy to see me. The maid took me to a new room. It was bigger than my first room. They liked 5 yen tip. I took off my European suit and put on my Japanese summer coat. After lunch, I wrote a letter to Kyo. I wrote about the new people I worked with and my new names for them. Porcupine visited me later. He wanted me to move to a cheaper place. He took me to see the guest house. I liked it. I decided to move there the next day. When I first met Porcupine, I did not like him. He often got angry, but he was a good man. Chapter 3. Botchan makes many mistakes. My classes started. Was I now a teacher? I did not know. When I entered the classroom and saw the students for the first time, I was surprised. The students were not very kind. I wanted them to listen, but they did not always listen to me. They said, "Sir!" many times. There was a lot of noise. Sir! To hear that word was interesting for me. The students called the teacher Sir. For people to call me Sir was strange. The students did not ask me anything difficult in my first class. After the class, I went to the teacher's room. Porcupine was there. "How was your first class?" Porcupine asked. "Fine," I answered. Porcupine accepted my answer. That was lucky. I went to my second class. The students sat at their desks. They were all big. I was a teacher from Tokyo in a class of 40 students. No, I was a small teacher from Tokyo in a class of 40 big students. How lucky I am, I thought to myself. I wanted to show these students I was strong. My Tokyo Japanese was difficult for them. I spoke fast. The students listened. Their mouths were open. I win, I thought. I was happy. One student at the front of the class was the strongest boy. He stood up. He was very near me, but he shouted, "Sir, you're speaking too fast! We can't follow you!" "You cannot follow me? Boys, I am from Tokyo. Can you not understand me? I am sorry. You must learn how to speak my Japanese. It is the Japanese we use in Tokyo." The second class went well. I wanted to finish. Then a student asked me about some very difficult things. "I have to finish the class now. What a pity," I said. "Talk to me in our next class." I walked out of the class to go to the teacher's room. I heard my students inside. "Sir doesn't know the answer." How kind my students are. Teachers do not know everything. They cannot always give answers immediately. I was angry. I entered the teacher's room. "How was that class?" asked Porcupine. I again said, "Fine." This time, he did not accept my answer. He asked me again. I joked that the students in this school were not very clever. He looked at me. Was he angry? Perhaps he did not think it was funny. In all my classes, I made a mistake, perhaps more than one mistake. I thought teaching was easy. Now I knew it was not. I finished my teaching for the day, but I could not leave the school building. Teachers wait for the end of school and take the students' names. Every day. How boring! I was angry again. I had nothing to do. I sat at my desk and waited for school to finish. After school, I walked home with Porcupine. Mr. Hotter, the teachers stay in school after they finish classes to write students' names in a book. Why do we do that? I asked. That is strange. At first, he laughed. He always laughs when I talk. Talk to me any time you want. Please remember that some people do not tell the truth. Do not listen to them. They are bad. At the next street, he went left. I went right. I did not know why some people in school were bad. I wanted to know. I wanted to ask him. After that day, I went to school every day. I met the students. I did my classes. After 1 week, I understood how to work in the school. I was different from the other teachers. I knew that. Perhaps some students did not like me. That was not important to me. Sometimes I made mistakes in my classes, but that was not a big problem, I thought. Sometimes I walked around town after school. One evening, I saw Tokyo Noodles Here on a shop window. I went in. Outside was much cleaner than inside. Inside the shop, only the menu was new. It was dark inside. The walls were black. The tatami was old. At the top of the menu was tempura soba. I liked both tempura and soba. I often ate them in Tokyo. Tempura soba! I shouted to the man in the kitchen. 3 young men were at the back of the shop, but it was dark, so I could not see them. They looked at me. I knew them. They were all students from my school. They said hello. They continued eating. My noodles came. They were great. I enjoyed 4 bowls of noodles that evening. The next day, I entered the classroom. Immediately I saw Tempura Teacher on the wall. The boys all laughed when they saw my face. In my next class, I saw 4 bowls of tempura noodles on the wall. Sometimes I did not like my students. A few days later, I took the small train to a bathhouse. I love having a long, hot bath. I had some dango after my bath. Dango was famous in this town. I did not meet anyone from school. I was happy. The next day, I went to school. In my second class, someone wrote on the wall, "Teacher loves dango." How did they know? Why were my students so bad to me? Every evening, I went to have a bath. I always carried a large European bath towel in my hand. The bath water was very hot and strong. The water changed the color of the towel. After that, some students called me Red Towel. I had a new name. Sometimes I swam in the bath when I was alone. The bathhouse did not accept swimming. When I was alone, I swam. It was not a problem. However, one day at school, I saw "No swimming in the bath" on the wall. Why did I move from Tokyo to this terrible town? I soon got bored of that school and its bad students. There were many problems between the teachers, too. Some teachers wanted rules. Some teachers wanted power. Each night, one teacher slept in the school with the boarding students who did not go home. A different teacher stayed each night. The teachers did not like sleeping in the school. They slept there because it was a school rule. Badger and Red Shirt, however, never slept in the school. They always went home because they were important. I did not understand that. I got angry. They got more money, they did not teach many classes, and they did not have to follow the rules. Oh, please! Why them and not me? Porcupine knew I was angry about this. He told me to calm down. "Don't be angry. Stronger people always have more power," he said. I understood what he said, but I did not understand why Badger and Red Shirt had more power. Chapter 4. Botchan has problems with students, insects, and some teachers. One day, soon after I entered the school, I slept in the school to look after the boarding students. I did not want to do it, but it was the school rule. It was difficult for me to sleep well in a strange bed, so I was not happy. The bedroom for teachers was at the back of the school building. It was hot. In the evening, I ate in the room. I had the same as the students. I did not like the food. It must be difficult to eat terrible food every day. Our students must be strong boys, I thought. I wanted a bath before bed because it was hot. I remembered the first time I visited the school. The teacher was not in school then. "I am going out," I told the caretaker. "On business?" he asked me. "No, to the bathhouse," I replied. I was at the bathhouse for a long time. I returned to school after dark. On the way back to the school, I met the principal and Porcupine. It was a surprise for them to see me. I returned to school. The caretaker and I talked. After 2 hours, I decided to go to bed. I put on my nightshirt. I went under the mosquito net and went under the red blanket. Suddenly, I got a big surprise. Something was in my bed. I moved my legs and feet under the blanket, but the things moved more. The things were on my legs. I got up immediately and looked under the blanket. 50 to 60 grasshoppers flew onto the mosquito net. After I saw what they were, I got very angry. I wanted to hit them with my pillow, but that was difficult because they were very small. I hit them hard with the pillow against the tatami. They flew everywhere in the room. Some were on my face and in my hair. I got them all. I was tired. I did not want to see the grasshoppers any more. I put them out of the room. The caretaker came to see what the problem was. He knew nothing about the grasshoppers in my bed. "Sorry, do you think I believe that?" "I do not," I said. "Someone put them in my bed." Immediately, I asked 3 of the students to come to my room. 6 students came. "Why did you put grasshoppers in my bed?" I asked. What's a grasshopper?" asked one boy who was standing near me. I showed him a dead one. One boy said, "That's not a grasshopper, it's a locust." I was very angry. "Listen, locusts are grasshoppers. They are the same thing. That is not important. Why did you put them in my bed?" I asked. "Perhaps they flew into your bed," the student replied. "That is not possible." "Who did this?" I said. "We understand why you are asking us. We did not do it." "We do not know what to say," another student said. "You have nothing to say? That is bad. Today is a sad day for me. You are high school students. You must understand what is good and what is bad. Return to your rooms," I said. "You did not say sorry to me." I did not like these boys. Why did they come to this school? They sometimes did not tell the truth, I thought. They did not study. They had too much fun. When they leave this school, they think they can easily get a job. I am not always a good man, but I want to be. I tell the truth. When I went back to bed, the mosquito net was open. It was full of little mosquitoes. I took my pillow and hit them. Before I slept, I thought about old Kiyo. I now understood her better. She did not go to high school, but she was a good person. She was a very kind person. It was easy to trust her. In the morning, I met all the students. I wanted to ask them about the grasshoppers. Badger came into the room. What a surprise! How did he know about this problem? He listened to me, then he listened to the students. After listening to everyone, Badger said, "Boys, go to class immediately." Badger did not tell the boys they were bad students. Why not? School principals must be strong. Our principal was weak. He was wrong. Our students were bad, and they did not know. Badger looked at me. He said, "Yesterday was difficult. You are tired. Go home and sleep." My face was very red from the mosquitoes. "Principal, I can teach my classes today," I said. "I did not sleep well yesterday, but I can teach," I told him. "I am a teacher. It is my work. I must do my work." Badger smiled, but it was not a kind smile. I did not know why. One day, Red Shirt came to my desk. He invited me to go fishing with him and Clown. Fishing was not very interesting to me, but I accepted. Clown and Red Shirt were like father and son. They were not like 2 teachers working together. Clown was always at Red Shirt's house. Clown followed Red Shirt everywhere. On the day to go fishing, we walked to the beach together. There was only 1 man and 1 boat. The boat was long and narrow. We did not have those boats in Tokyo. How do we catch the fish? I asked. Clown looked at me. Are you joking? He asked. We use fishing lines. I did not like how Clown talked to me. The sea was beautiful. We went in the boat to Aoshima, a small island with some very tall green trees. The trees were beautiful. Red Shirt said, When I see this island, the trees and the sea, I think of a Turner painting. I said nothing because I did not understand. Yes, said Clown. And how about Madonna by Raphael? That was also a beautiful painting. Do not talk about Madonna, laughed Red Shirt. It is not a problem. We are all friends here, said Clown. He looked at me. He smiled. I did not like his smile. I did not like him. I did not understand. Who was Madonna? What was Madonna? Did Red Shirt like Madonna? At school, Red Shirt sometimes read things in English. He read English to understand about life in foreign countries. Perhaps Madonna was from a foreign country. It was late. The boat returned to the beach. On the way, Red Shirt talked to me. Your students are happy with your classes. Please follow the school rules, he said. Remember, some friends are not always true good friends. One friend is kind to you now, but do not trust him. What did he mean? Who did he mean? Did he mean Porcupine? Chapter 5. Who or what is Madonna? I did not know what to believe or who to trust. I did not like Red Shirt, but he was kind to me. I liked Porcupine, but was he really my friend? Red Shirt did not say Porcupine's name in the boat, but I thought it was Porcupine. Did Porcupine say bad things about me, so the students don't like me? I remembered talking with Red Shirt the day after the fishing trip. He came to my desk in the teacher's room. Please do not tell anyone about our conversation yesterday, he said to me. I did not understand why not, but I did not tell anyone. There was a meeting in the afternoon. It was about the bad students from the other night. This was my first teachers' meeting. I did not know what to do. Why did the teachers need a meeting? I did not understand. It was very clear that the students were bad. Everyone knew that. What did teachers do in a teachers' meeting? I did not know, but I wanted to know. Perhaps the teachers said what they thought and the principal listened. Perhaps after that, the principal decided what to do. Perhaps that was it. The meeting was in a long, narrow room. It was next to the principal's office. The principal sat at one end of the room. Red Shirt sat next to him. The situation was new to me. I sat between the teachers of natural history and Chinese classics. Across the table sat Clown and Porcupine. This time Porcupine looked at me with angry eyes. I looked at Porcupine in the same way. Squash arrived a few minutes late. Then Badger started the meeting. He wanted to talk about the bad students, school life, and some other problems. At the beginning of the meeting, Badger spoke. He was not a good principal. Our school has many problems. I am not strong. I am weak. Please help me. What can we do, teachers? He was weak. Was that true? Then the answer was easy. Badger must leave this school. The school principal is always the strongest teacher in a school. No one said anything, not one word. The natural history teacher looked outside at a big black bird. The classics teacher played with his pencil. Porcupine watched me with angry eyes. What a strange situation. Why did no one say anything to the principal? I got more and more angry. Well, I needed to say something. I was almost out of my chair when Red Shirt began to speak. I sat down again. He dried his face with a silk handkerchief. His handkerchief was silk. The students are still young, so we must be kind. We must not be hard, said Red Shirt. Next, Clown stood up to speak. No one understood what he said. I remember one thing. He said, I agree with the principal and head teacher. Some other teachers spoke. They all agreed with Red Shirt. I was so angry. I stood up to say something. I did not have time to think. That was a bad idea. I do not agree, I said. No more words came. We cannot decide this way, I said. Then I stopped. Everyone started laughing. The students did something very bad. We must be strong, so they do not think we teachers are weak. They must say sorry. I sat down again. I was sad and angry because I did not speak well. Porcupine moved his chair back noisily. He stood up. His face was serious. I thought he wanted to agree with Badger and Red Shirt. However, he supported me. What a surprise! Porcupine was very brave. Now I liked him again. Then I went from happy to sad. Porcupine said, I want to say something about this teacher. He went to the bathhouse last week. He didn't follow the rules. It was his job to look after the students. He was right to tell everyone, but I was angry. I stood up again and said, Yes, it is true. I went to the bathhouse when it was my job to look after the students. I am sorry. I was wrong. Then they all laughed again. Whatever I said, everyone laughed. I did not understand why. The teachers agreed with me. I won. The bad boarding students said sorry to me and did not leave our school for 1 week. I was happy about that. At the end of the very long meeting, Badger said, Remember, teachers must always be good. They must not go alone to cheap bars and restaurants. I am talking about noodle and dango shops. Once again, all the other teachers laughed. Suddenly, Red Shirt said, High school teachers must always remember they are teachers. They must be strong. They must not think of their happiness only. However, I know it is difficult to live in a small town like this without nice things. We all need to go fishing, see art, and read literature. Don't forget Madonna, I said. No one laughed this time. Red Shirt put his head down. His face was red. I looked at Squash. His white face got whiter. I did not know why. One day, Porcupine visited me in my guest house. I am sorry. They want you to leave, said Porcupine. I took my bags and moved out of their house the same evening. I walked for a long time. I looked up. I was near Squash's house. Perhaps he knew a good place for me to live. I knocked on the door. An old woman answered, perhaps his mother. She had a kind face. I thought of Kyo. Why is Kiyo not writing me any letters? I hoped she was well. I went in the house. I told Squash my story. He had an idea. He took me to meet the Haginaw family who lived behind them. They wanted a man to stay in their house. I moved into the Haginaw house that evening. Mrs. Haginaw was a lovely old lady. She was like a mother. She asked too many questions. "You are 24 years old and not married. I am very surprised. You must be careful with girls. Take time to choose a nice one," Mrs. Haginaw said. "Not all girls are nice, you know." I did not understand. She told me a story about Porcupine, Squash, Red Shirt, and a young lady called Toyama. Some people called her Madonna because she was very beautiful. Her face was like a picture. Now I understood. Squash loved Madonna. He wanted to marry her. Madonna promised to marry Squash. Then Squash had money problems after his father died. There was no money for a wedding. They decided to wait for a year. In that year, Red Shirt met Madonna. He loved her too. He wanted to marry her. He knew that was wrong. Everyone knew Madonna and Squash were together. However, Red Shirt asked Madonna to marry him. Porcupine and Squash were good friends. Porcupine spoke with Red Shirt about Madonna. "She promised to marry Squash. Do not ask her to marry you. That is not possible." "I did not ask her to marry me. We are good friends, that is all," said Red Shirt. Porcupine did not believe Red Shirt. The two men stopped speaking to each other after that. Chapter 6. Botchan now understands Porcupine and Red Shirt. 2 or 3 days after my conversation with Mrs. Haginaw, I got a long letter from Kiyo. It was over a meter long. I spent a long time reading and thinking about Kiyo's letter. She was ill again. I wanted her to live with me, but money was a problem. I was late for my bath that evening. I missed the train by 2 or 3 minutes. I sat on the bench in the station to wait for the next train. Squash walked into the station. I called his name. He sat on the bench with me. I felt so sorry for him after hearing that story from Mrs. Haginaw. We talked about school. I heard a young woman laugh. I looked around. She was beautiful. She was tall with white skin. Her hair was in a European style. She was in front of the ticket window with an older woman, perhaps her mother. Squash got up and walked to the ticket window. He bowed to them. They bowed to him. They had a polite conversation. I could not hear them. That must be Madonna. Suddenly, Red Shirt ran into the station. He wore a thin kimono with a silk belt. He stopped, looked around, and bowed politely to Squash and the women. They said hello to each other. Then he walked over to me. "Are you going to the bathhouse too? I did not want to miss the train, so I ran here. That clock is right, isn't it?" He sat down next to me. Then he just looked straight ahead. The older woman looked at Red Shirt now and then, but the younger one did not look at him. She must be the famous Madonna. We all got on the train together. Red Shirt and the women entered the first-class car. It was very cheap for the short trip. I also had a first-class ticket. Squash got into the second-class car, so I followed him. We sat together. It was late when I left the bathhouse. The moon helped me see the way. I did not want to go home immediately. I walked home slowly. I walked past the dango shop where some students saw me. I wanted some dango, but I did not go in. Teachers must not enter such shops alone. I remembered Red Shirt's words. Not eating dango when you want to is difficult. However, it must be much more difficult to lose your fiancée to another man. Poor Squash. Madonna was beautiful, but she has a cold heart. It is difficult to trust people. I wanted to tell Kyo about many things, but it was not possible. Kyo was too nice. My news was too bad. After only 1 month here, I felt 5 or 6 years older. I reached the bridge that crossed the river Nodzeri. It was actually a very small river, 2 meters wide. The name was big, but the river was not. I looked behind me. I saw the bathhouse town and heard some music. As I walked along the river, I could see 2 people in front of me. The moon was out, but I could not see them clearly. It was probably some boys from town walking home from the bathhouse. I continued walking. I was faster than them. The 2 shadows became larger. It was a man and a woman. When I got nearer, about 20 meters away, the man heard me. He looked behind him. The moon was behind me, so the man could not see my face. But I could see him. I thought I knew the man. They continued walking. I started walking much faster. Suddenly I could hear their conversation clearly. The path along the river was quite narrow, about 2 meters wide. My sleeve touched the man's kimono sleeve as I passed him. I turned round and looked straight at the man's face. The moon showed my face. I know he saw me. The man was very surprised. He turned to the woman and said, "Let's go back." It was Red Shirt, and the woman was Madonna. They then walked back toward the bathhouse town. Madonna! Our head teacher was out with another teacher's woman. He was out with Squash's Madonna. I knew, and he knew that I knew. The next day, Red Shirt came to my desk before class. "Let's go fishing again together," he said. He thought we were great friends. I did not think so. "I saw you last night," I said, 2 times. He answered, "Yes, at the station." "Do you go there so late every evening?" he asked. I said, "I also met you on the River Nodzeri path, didn't I?" "No," he said. "I didn't walk along the river path. I went home immediately after the bathhouse." That was not true. After the fishing trip with Red Shirt and Clown, I was not sure Porcupine and I were really friends. Then Mrs. Hagino told me about Porcupine and Squash. Porcupine supported Squash against Red Shirt about Madonna. Also, Porcupine supported me in the teachers' meeting. After that, I thought Porcupine was my friend. Could Red Shirt be the bad man? He often gave me the wrong information. I saw Red Shirt taking a walk with Madonna along the river path, but he said it was not him. After that, I knew I could not trust him. Red Shirt and I met face to face at the river. Why did he say he did not walk along the river with Madonna? He saw me, and I saw him. I could never believe Red Shirt again. I still talked with him, but I did not trust him. I did not speak with Porcupine, but I thought we were friends. What a strange world. One day Red Shirt came to my desk in school. "Please come to my house this evening. I have something to tell you," he said. Usually I went to the bathhouse every day. That day, for the first time, I did not go. I arrived at Red Shirt's house. He was single, not married, but he lived in a very nice house. I wanted to show Kyo that house. Red Shirt's young brother answered the door. I did not know why, but I did not like that boy. I walked into the guest room. Red Shirt was in a big chair. "Please sit down. Listen, you are doing good work at school. I plan to speak with the principal about a new job with more money for you. Mr. Koga is moving to a school in Nobeoka in Kyushu," said Red Shirt. "Our school can use that money for you." This was Squash's hometown. Nobeoka was so far from here. Did Squash really want to leave his hometown? Something was not right about this. Also, why did Red Shirt want to give me a higher position and more money? I was a very new teacher. Was I good enough to get more money? What about Porcupine, my boss? He was so popular, and he had no plans to leave our school. In the evening, I talked with Mrs. Hagino about Squash. "I am surprised Mr. Koga chose to go to Nobeoka. It probably has more monkeys than people," I said. "No," she said. "Mr. Koga did not choose to go. The school principal had a meeting with Mr. Koga. The school knew Mr. Koga needed more money to marry Miss Toyama. However, the school did not have enough money to give Mr. Koga more money. The Nobeoka job offered 5 more yen a month. Mr. Koga did not want to accept the new job, but the principal decided for him," said Mrs. Hagino. I did not know what to say. Chapter 7. Kimonos and European-style suits. At last, I understood. This was all part of Red Shirt's plan to marry Madonna. Red Shirt was too clever for Squash. What a bad man Red Shirt was. At his house, Red Shirt explained about Squash and why it was good for me. "After Mr. Koga goes to the Nobeoka school, we can give you more money," he said. I said no at first. Then I said yes to Red Shirt because I needed more money. I wanted Kiyo to come to Shikoku. After I went home, I could not sleep. I was so angry. I decided to say no to Red Shirt. I returned to Red Shirt's house. I did not want to go into the house. Red Shirt came to the front door. We talked there. His face was red from drinking sake. I explained why I did not want the new job and more money. Red Shirt was not happy. "You already said yes. It is too late to say no. Please think about your job in our school." "Do you want to stay here?" he asked. I was strong. I said no again. I went home. But Red Shirt won. Squash took the new job in Nobeoka. The day of Squash's sayonara party soon arrived. All the teachers wanted to say goodbye to Squash. In the morning, Porcupine came to my desk to speak to me. "Do you remember the guest house you stayed at? Well, the man and his wife were bad people, but I believed their stories about you. I am sorry. Why didn't I believe you?" I thanked him for his kind words. In the evening, Porcupine and I talked more before the party. I said, "I saw Red Shirt with Madonna at the River Nodzeri. The next day, he wanted to give me a new job and more money." "What? That's my job. Why is he giving you my job?" said Porcupine. "Why does Red Shirt want me out of the school? Does he want me to go? Okay, he goes too." I did not take the job or the money, I told Porcupine. He was very happy to hear that. "You are a good man. I spoke with Badger twice and Red Shirt once. I wanted to stop Squash's move to Nobeoka, but it was too late," said Porcupine. Porcupine was angry with Squash because Squash was always too nice. "Why didn't he say no?" Porcupine asked me. We both agreed about Red Shirt. He needed Squash to move because he wanted to marry Madonna. Everyone thinks Red Shirt is a good man, but you cannot believe what he says. He is not a nice person. You must understand that. To be funny, I said, "Hey, why don't you fight Red Shirt and Clown at Squash's party tonight?" Porcupine did not laugh. He said, "No, not tonight. This party is important for Mr. Koga. We must find another way. Everyone must know that Red Shirt and Clown are bad people." "At the party, please speak well of Mr. Koga," I said to Porcupine. "You know from the teachers' meeting that it is difficult for me to speak in front of people." "I remember. It's strange, you know, that you can't speak in front of people. Isn't that difficult for you? You are a teacher," he said. I said nothing. Squash's party was at Kashin Tae because it was the best restaurant in town. It probably was, but it was not so good for someone from Tokyo. We were the last people to arrive. The party room was very big. It was bigger than the 3 big rooms at the Yamashiroya, my first hotel here. The alcove in the room was also very big, like my room in the Yamashiroya. The writing on the scroll in the alcove was very poor. In Tokyo, the writing on scrolls was always good. I hoped the food was better. Everyone waited for the party to start. Badger sat in front of the scroll. He wore an expensive kimono. Red Shirt sat to his left. He was also in Japanese dress. On Badger's right sat Squash, the special guest, in his beautiful kimono. I wore a European-style suit. I was not comfortable. It was difficult to sit down on tatami in European clothes. I sat against a wall. The physical education teacher also wore a European-style suit, but he sat Japanese style on the tatami. First Badger spoke. Then Red Shirt stood to speak. "We all agree that Mr. Koga is a great man and teacher. He is a good friend to us all. But Mr. Koga really wanted to move to Nobeoka, so this evening we are all saying goodbye. Good luck, Mr. Koga." Porcupine and I looked at each other. How could Badger and Red Shirt say these words so easily at Squash's sayonara party? Those men were very good actors. When Red Shirt sat down, Porcupine quickly stood up. He started talking. "The principal and the head teacher are sorry that Mr. Koga is leaving our school," said Porcupine. "I am not sorry. I am happy that Mr. Koga is going to Nobeoka. It is true that Nobeoka is far from here, but I am sure that Nobeoka people are honest and kind. I am also sure that the students can learn a lot from Mr. Koga. To finish, I hope that after some time there, Mr. Koga finds a kind woman in Nobeoka to be his wife. Mr. Koga, please enjoy your new life in Nobeoka," said Porcupine. Silence. Squash stood up. He bowed to Porcupine to thank him. "Principal and teachers, I am very happy now. I thank you all, my good friends, for this wonderful dinner. I want to remember your kind words until I die." He bowed once more and sat down. At last the food came. First was some sashimi, but the slices of fish were too thick. I did not like the sashimi. Was this really the best restaurant in town? I did not want any Tokyo people to come to this restaurant. Bottles of hot sake came from the kitchen. Clown gave Badger some sake to say kanpai. Why Badger? This was Squash's party. At parties, everyone gives wine to the most important guest first. Squash said kanpai to many teachers in the room. He thanked everyone. I was surprised when 3 or 4 young geisha girls arrived. I was surprised again when Red Shirt quickly got up and walked to the door. The youngest, prettiest geisha girl smiled and bowed as they passed each other. I think she said, "Good evening," but Red Shirt did not say anything. He left the room and never came back. Clown said to the young geisha, "What a pity! Your boyfriend went home." The geisha girl hit Clown's leg to stop him talking. Clown laughed. The party continued. People ate a lot of food. Some people drank too much sake. Squash and I left the party together before it finished. It was after 11 o'clock when I got home. Chapter 8. Botchan and Porcupine against Red Shirt and Clown. 1 week after Squash's sayonara party, there was a special holiday. There was no school that day. The streets had flags everywhere. I sat in my garden looking at the orange tree. It was beautiful. Porcupine came in. "Hey, because today is a holiday, let's have some good beef." After lunch, we talked about Red Shirt's favourite geisha girl, the one from Squash's sayonara party. "Red Shirt always says people must be good, but he likes geisha girls," said Porcupine. "He thinks that being friends with a geisha girl is not bad. So why did he leave the party quickly when the geisha girl arrived?" I said. "He says one thing, but he does another." Porcupine and I talked in my room. We knew that Red Shirt met his geisha girl at the Kadoya Hotel. "Somehow we must find him there with his geisha," said Porcupine. Mrs. Haginaw came to my room. She said that a student wanted to talk to Mr. Hota. It was Red Shirt's younger brother. How strange! How did he know that Porcupine was at my house? The student invited Porcupine to a special dance later in the day. "Did you hear that? Please come with me," said Porcupine. In the afternoon, we walked into town. The streets were full of people. We watched the special dance. Suddenly, we heard some noise. It was not far away. We saw people running. Then, Red Shirt's younger brother ran over to us. He said, Mr. Hota, there's a fight. Our boys are fighting with boys from another school. Come quickly." Porcupine ran to stop the fight. I went with him. There were about 50 or 60 students from the other school and about 90 of our students. The fighting was bad. We did not know what to do. Porcupine said, "Let's stop this. I don't want the police to see our boys fighting." Suddenly, someone hit me and I fell down. I heard some students shout, "Teachers, knock them down!" Then another boy, "Two of them, a big one and a short one, throw stones!" I wanted to stop them. I started hitting the student nearest to me. Then we heard, "Police! Police! Run!" All of the students ran away. Porcupine was hurt. I had a cut on my cheek. 16 policemen arrived. They did not catch any boys. They caught Porcupine and me. 3 days later, I talked with Porcupine. "I have a problem. There is a story in the newspaper. It says that you and I started the fight. The principal believes the newspaper, not me. I have to leave this school." Later that day, Red Shirt came to my desk. "What a shame about Mr. Hota. I want to help you. I know some people at the newspaper." Then I remembered Red Shirt's brother and the invitation to the dance. This was Red Shirt's plan. He wanted to make Porcupine look bad. He wanted Badger to ask Porcupine to leave his job. On his last day, Porcupine went down to the beach to get the ship to Kobe. But he did not get on the ship. Instead, he went to the bathhouse town and rented a room in a small guest house opposite the Kadoya Hotel. He wanted to catch Red Shirt with his geisha girl. For 1 week, we watched the hotel but no red shirt or clown. Then, on the 8th night, at about 7:30, we saw Kozutsu go into the hotel. Kozutsu was Red Shirt's geisha friend. We got excited. Tonight is the night, we thought. 3 hours later, we heard 2 men in the street. "Everything is all right now." It was Clown. "No more Koga, no more Hota. Soon, no more Botchan." Botchan! What a terrible name! Next was Red Shirt's voice. "You know what Botchan says? I don't want a new job and more money, or I want to leave here. What a strange man he is." The 2 laughed and walked into the hotel. We waited and waited. At last, Clown and Red Shirt left the hotel. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. We let them walk ahead, and then we followed them. Outside the town, we walked up to them and stood in front of them. Clown was so afraid, he tried to run away. I stopped him. "Why is the head teacher leaving a hotel at 5 a.m.? Porcupine asked Red Shirt. "Is there any reason a head teacher cannot stay in a hotel?" Red Shirt asked Porcupine. He was a little white. "Well, listen to the head teacher. He doesn't like teachers who go to noodle or dango shops. They are a bad example to the students. And he just stayed in a hotel with a geisha girl called Kozutsu," said Porcupine. Clown wanted to run. I stopped him. "Who is afraid of Botchan now, huh?" I asked. I remembered there were some eggs in my pocket. They were for my breakfast. I broke the eggs on his head. Suddenly, Clown's face was all yellow. Porcupine said to Red Shirt, "I saw your favourite geisha go into the hotel early in the evening. I know you were together." Porcupine was angry and hit him. Red Shirt almost fell. "This is terrible. You can't hit people for no reason," said Red Shirt. "You are terrible," said Porcupine, and hit him again. "I have many reasons to hit you." Then Porcupine looked at the 2 men. "You are both terrible people. Be nicer to everyone." The 2 men said nothing. They were too afraid to speak. "I know it was wrong to hit you. I am staying at the Minatoya Hotel at the beach." "Tell the police," said Porcupine. "Me too," I said. We walked away feeling better. The police never came. Porcupine and I left Shikoku for Kobe on the 6 o'clock ship. From Kobe we took a train to Tokyo. I said goodbye to Porcupine at Shimbashi Station. That was the last time I saw him. I hurried to Kiyo's house. "Hello, Kiyo! I'm back!" I said. "How good of you to come back so soon," she answered, and she started crying because she was happy. I decided to live in Tokyo with Kiyo as my servant. Life was good for a short time. Then Kiyo suddenly got ill. On the day before she died, she said, "Please, when I die, put me with your family. I want to wait there for my Botchan." So, Kiyo is with my family. She is waiting for me in your Genji temple in Tokyo.